Welcome everyone to the podcast. Thank you so much for joining me as always. I'm thrilled to be here and talking about the December energy update. Now this was an interesting one because when I asked my guides, when I sat down, I was like, all right, everyone, give me the goods. What do we have going on for December? They said, there honestly are so many things going on. We want to give you little pieces of each. And so it was kind of like, it almost reminded me of, when you have like a whole bunch of different candy buckets and you take a little bit of each one instead of a ton of one of them. It was kind of like that. So I had like 6 different candy buckets and got to take a few pieces to share with all of you. So the energy is very interesting in December. There is an intensity to it. However, there is a lightness to it. And that brings me to my very first point, which Spirit said December is polarity and duality on high. And so they said there will be a very strong fear energy throughout December. It's going to be a very strong fear energy still. That's going to be ramped up by the human collective on our planet. This is part of just how they do things, right? And we don't need to get into that because all of you are really aware and you can choose what you find to be fear-based within that and what you choose not to have as fear-based energy. However, the concept of fear-based energy is definitely on high in December. However, there is equal parts joy energy, and that is through holiday celebrations. And so Spirit's guidance with December is choose very consciously, choose very wisely what you are participating in. What are you feeding your mind, your body, and spirit energetically throughout December? Because you have the opportunity in December to make it very joyful. If you really dive into that energy of, maybe for some it's family celebrations, maybe for others it is time off and a vacation. Maybe for others it is just, time spent in the quiet and, in solitude, which is really reassuring and refreshing for other people. Choose wisely. And in some cases, some might want to really disengage from media throughout the month of December to really sort of anchor into that energy of peace and joy. Because here's the thing, Spirit keeps stressing how much it is absolutely our choice. It is absolutely our choice what we engage in, and what we engage in helps dictate the reality we live in. And again, as I always say, I'm not saying this to be ignorant of anything happening in the world. It's not about that, but it's about what you continually feed yourself throughout the day energetically dictates the reality in which you see the world from, the lenses you have. So with there being an increased fear energy, but also an increased joy energy through celebrations, you really can choose which camp you are going to, anchor all your energy in, while still having the freedom to explore everything, however you want. But where are you anchoring your energy? Okay, so that's the first point. The next point is, so we have the winter solstice in December, and this is when the energy moves from, the darkness to the concept of like, things are going to begin to start to return to light, right? It's like the darkest day. And often this has such a negative energy to it, but Spirit really was saying that this is such a beautiful point of transition of power, that the darkest night, the darkest day, longest night, gives way to a shift in energy the very next day, where we start to have this renewal of longer days, right? It takes a little while to see it, but this renewal of longer days is an example of this transfer of power. And I mentioned this recently, I can't remember if it was last week or the week before, but one of the Spirit messages was about this transfer of power that's happening. And so as we start into the energy of December, we're going to be able to see how the energy of the solstice is actually playing out in our personal lives, as we begin to notice, first of all, what are the points of power that are coming up to the forefront for us to see in our lives. Where is there maybe a power struggle? Where is there a desire for more personal power? What does that look like? And then as we near the winter solstice and then the few days after, we're going to start to see how this transfer of power is really taking shape, how it's starting to feel in your body, maybe how it's starting to show up in your world. There's a greater renewal happening than just simply a seasonal change in energy. We're also seeing an energetic change on the planet that is amplified by the way in which our planet moves through its own solar system and its own cycles, right? As above, so below. So this winter solstice is going to bring a big transformation of power. And so it's really about noticing how this shows up for you in your life. All right. The next message is actually, okay, it's really quite neat. So it kind of follows, well, I guess there's not a flow, different buckets, right? Like Spirit said, different candy buckets. So the third candy bucket is, they said, really pay attention this holiday season to what traditions still have meaning and value to you and why, as well as what traditions no longer have meaning and value to you and why. What still resonates and what does not. Because what's happening is in these traditions that we have, they are these actions we take that hold a certain frequency. And some of these, have been holding the same frequency for maybe centuries, decades for sure, through family lines. And we have the opportunity now to really, as we're moving into this transition of power, to notice which traditions are a beautiful energetic hub that helps us moving forward and which traditions actually no longer help us moving forward. And that there doesn't have to be a right or wrong. It's more of like the resonance. And in that also, which ones do you wish to create now with your new frequency and your new energy? Right? And the Spirit's giving me this example. Maybe a new tradition you want to create is you create this beautiful sort of energetic ceremony where you have this big pot of water on your stove. Everybody in your family helps cut up, say, fruits, and then there's cinnamon sticks in there, and there's cloves, and whatever feels like it has a resonance for you. And then you write on little pieces of paper what your wishes are over the holiday season, and you put that in that sort of simmer pot, and you let it simmer all day long, and it infuses your whole house with this warm, beautiful smell, but it's also infusing your dreams and intentions written on those papers throughout your whole house, right? Now, it does not have to be that at all, but that's just an example of a new tradition you could start if you wanted to, right? It can be anything. And so really pay attention to what you're creating and what you're reinforcing this holiday season, because there's a lot of power behind the actions that you take and what you're doing. All right, the next message, number 4, the bucket number 4, they said was compassion versus rush. And I was like, okay, explain. And they said, another thing for us to really pay attention to throughout December is there is such an energy of rushing here, rushing there, rushing to do this, rushing to get this done, all for the idea of, rush, 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 and then sit and be joyful. And they're saying, in many ways in our lives, we're starting to change the idea of rushing, right? Like, I think a number of years ago, maybe a decade ago, to be super busy and rushing around was seen as, and again, I'm generalizing, but was seen as like, okay, you're doing enough, you're working hard, you are worthy of rest because you rush, or something like that, But now those narratives are starting to change. And what's beautiful is they're saying when we start to disengage the concept of rushing around everywhere, we actually make space for more compassion. And it's the acts of compassion that actually fill our heart and give us the feeling of worthiness. It is not the rushing. The rushing takes away from it because we're not actually fully present in our mind. We're constantly a couple steps ahead while rushing through the present to get to the next, to then get to the next. And we're missing the present moment of where we create our reality. And so they said when you decrease the rush and you step back into compassion, your space for acts of compassion pay back energetically tenfold, not only to you, but for the person or the animal or the environment in which you are offering the compassion to. And I mean, holiday seasons are all about that idea of compassion and time spent together in the present moment. But so much of the way society is created is we miss that. And so Spirit is encouraging us all to step into the energy of compassion. If you find yourself rushing, stop for a moment and hold the door open for somebody. Stop for a moment and say hi to somebody in the grocery store, or, offer to get something off a top shelf if you're taller. Have a little mini conversation. If you grab them a spice from the top and, you take a moment, you're like, yeah, I'll get that for you. Is this for your Christmas dinner or your holiday dinner? Yeah, it is. Oh, are you having people over? Yes, I'm having my family. It's been a long time. I haven't seen them. Oh, that's so wonderful. And then what that does is that puts that energy of their excitement and joy back into their moment, pauses them from rushing, gets them into compassion. That maybe by the time they hit the till, when they're waiting to get their stuff rung in, they talk to the person in front of them, and then they end up doing the same thing to the person in front of them. Oh, I see you have a whole bunch of candy in there. And the person's like, yeah, you know what? We're building gingerbread houses and we're having a gingerbread building competition. And oh, that's so fun, right? Like that energy has huge ripples. But if all we're doing is rushing, we're missing the beauty of the humanity, the beauty of conversation, the beauty of stopping and slowing down. And that is what really feeds our energy. So that's something to really consider, compassion versus the rush. All right. Now, number 5 was, if you all had a chance to listen to my Galactic Thursday message last week, I had a message from one of my guides who told me that they had like an army at the ready, part of the Galactic Federation army ready, and they showed me them. And that army was ready to intervene where and when needed in a moment's notice for nuclear threats, if we can put it that way. And I know when they brought that up, I was a little hesitant to share it in one sense, because I was like, well, what if you're wrong? What if you miss it? What if? And so even again, they brought it up and they said, mention this. And I said, but what if you're wrong? And they said, it wasn't about not being wrong, but it was about trusting in the bigger picture and the capacity of things beyond what we can comprehend, stepping in ways we couldn't imagine. And so when I say that, they showed me this army, galactic army ready, it didn't mean that we would necessarily be infiltrated with this galactic war happening in our skies, like in Star Wars and all of this. But it was almost like the energetic nature in which they can help affect things on our planet is significant and bigger than we can realize. And sometimes we might not even see the way in which they do step in. There may be a situation that we actually never hear about, right? Maybe some sort of nuclear thing, or the button is pressed, but it is neutralized and we'll never hear about it. But what they said is that they have a capacity, and anything of a nuclear threat puts, it allows them absolute access to intervene. Because there's this law of non-intervention, that they can't intervene on the growth of a race. They can help, but they can't intervene. However, when there is a threat to the planetary and, solar system structure and balance, then they can. And so this is one of those things where they're saying we can intervene, and we have many different ways of doing so, and ways in which you may never see. However, we are here, we are listening, we do know what's going on. And so they're really wanting to safeguard that energy. And they wanted to bring that through because of a lot of fear narratives happening right now. So I'm repeating this based on their desire to have me repeat it. And, really choosing to trust in that knowledge as well, And I can say that there have been many things Spirit has brought through and the Galactics have brought through that have, in fact, happened. And ways in which they have done little things to help us out, or step in here and step in there. And oftentimes it is quite seamless. Oftentimes there's maybe little things that happen that we can't quite explain. Sometimes there's timeline glitches. I've noticed sometimes there have been timeline glitches where, something felt like it's almost as if time was rewound, and then we're doing something again, but it's like, what? How do I prove that? What's going on? And So again, there's ways beyond what we understand and know, but the main message of that is we are not alone. We are being supported, and there are more safety measures in place than we realize. All right, now my last point, number 6 for this beautiful December energy update, is increased dream activity for clearing karmic debris. And this is really neat because we had a lot of dream stuff coming up. We had a lot of karmic stuff coming up for a while, for a couple months. And they said in December, many of us may have really vivid dreams. And some of us might think like, what? Why am I having a dream like that? Or why is this person or this situation in this dream? Like, I thought that was over with. And they said not to panic, simply observe the dream, because in many cases, it's clearing up these pieces of karmic debris. It's kind of the leftover bits after the karma is cleared. It's like sweeping out the corners of the room, you know, or cleaning up the house after you've already moved out, but you have to clean it up. It's that kind of thing. And so they're saying just observe. Notice what comes up in your dreams. Notice what debris shows itself. And when you wake up from your dream and you're pondering it, just allow the awareness of what came out to sort of be swept up and released, because it's not yours to carry anymore, right? So there's going to be a lot of karmic clearing in our dream state. And this is just something for us to observe. Now, at the same time, because this is a general message, if you notice some really stagnant themes or these repeated dreams that you're like, this isn't karmic clearing, this is something that's coming up, then your dream state is giving you the awareness of what's needing to be looked at. And that's a really good thing. And so the encouragement there is to really step into it and explore it and see what it is showing you and what can you do about it. So our dream state, though, is going to continue to be very revealing, very interactive, very communicative. So having a dream journal by your bed that you can jot the stuff down right away in the morning is helpful. Setting your intention before you go to sleep that you would like to remember your dreams. Or sometimes I'll say to Spirit, please help wake me up in the middle of the night if I have a dream and it's really important. Help me wake up so I can write it down quickly before I go to sleep. And then you can also ask, if you wake up and you have a dream and you're like, I think there's more in that, I'd like to continue that, you can ask the following night to see if you can continue the dream you had before. So there's a lot of ways that you can go about it, but definitely an increased dream activity. Also within that, there'll be a lot of spirit communication too. So your spirit guides or your galactic guides may be coming through to you in dream state also. Again, to increase this communication between you and the unlimited universe, the unlimited version of who you are. Because again, we are awakening so fast. We are growing, expanding in consciousness, awakening fast, seeing through the illusions, realizing our divinity. Like, it's amazing to see the way in which spirit views our growth is actually quite beautiful. And I know sometimes I can hear other people talking about how spirit's like, you're very primitive, humans are primitive, or ETs are saying that. And there probably are some that are saying that, but there are also many ETs and spirit guides that are very much in awe with the growth of humanity and the amount of people that are choosing to want to explore the depths of who they are, want to remember maybe past lives, their purpose as to why they're here, and be those willing to change, ancestral stories, change the way we do things moving forward, innovate, open up, communicate, all of that. So there is a lot of positivity to be seen. And so that's why, if I bring it back to the first point of the fear narrative versus holiday celebrations and joy, Spirit is saying, really choose wisely. Choose for you how you wish to be, because this is a beautiful month that can bring through a lot of goodness. We're not ignorant of the struggle, but we're choosing to anchor our energy in the joy. So that is my wish for all of you this December, is for you to choose your energy and anchor it into the joy. That is what I am going to do. And I think this will be a really beautiful month. So I will leave that with all of you. Thank you so much, as always, for joining me. I appreciate it big time. Please do share this podcast or like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. And I will see you all next week. So have a beautiful start to your December.